This is the ConnectHER, the Bold Life podcast, where we talk all things leadership, innovation, faith, and economic opportunity with real conversations that matter. I am your host, Kristy Jackson, entrepreneur, speaker, lifelong learner, and your go-to connector for stepping into your big, bold purpose. Even though sometimes I can't even say the word lifelong learner, but I am that. But here, as I said, we're going to keep it warm, we're going to keep it authentic and unapologetically real. Because guess what? We're not playing small here. It is not an option. Today, I am excited to have our special guest, Mary Beth Howell, who is a new friend. And she is such a cool, I can say mentor in some ways, because you are leading in spaces that many women are not. As the marketing director of the UFL St. Louis Battlehawks.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Kristy. So good to be here.
Well, this is fun because, we have these great conversations all the time, but I just wanted to share it with our connector audience today because every woman does not have such cool women in their circle, right? That are doing things that are not usual, and especially leading in spaces where a lot of us are not represented. So that's one of the reasons why I was really excited to have you here. And it's not, I know that, you're currently serving in this role, but even your journey here is really exciting to hear you talk about because you've kind of, taken your path into your own hands, right?
Yes.
And we're very creative and innovative about, moving your dreams forward, right?
For sure.
So can you just share a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, thank you so much. And one of the reasons why I'm here is because there aren't a lot of opportunities to really get real, right? I love these types of conversations where it's like, Kristy, just pick my brain.
Yes.
Because I will talk about what you really want to talk about. Like, ask me the questions because I will give you the answers, right? So guide me. Like, where do I even start?
Yeah.
Where do I start?
Well, I'm really curious about what made you have the grit to say, I'm going to move to LA. I'm going to be in LA.
Oh.
I'm going to create this path in PR. Like, where did that come from?
I mean, the whole question of, what made me move to LA. Okay, here's the thing. I've always been a risk taker. Or I like adventure. I love challenges. We were just talking about this earlier. Like, I play tennis for fun, but I do it competitively, right? Even though that's just recreational for me, but competing is a thing. So in my career, professional journey, I don't really see myself as competing with others. It's more so I'm working toward getting better myself, or I like pushing the limits, making new limits for myself. And I think, St. Louis is the greater St. Louis area. This is my home, and I love St. Louis. But I just knew at some point I would have some kind of new journey to embark on, right? And let's see.
Well, I mean, people have that inkling all the time, but they don't take the action, right, to move toward it.
That's fear. I think fear is the one thing that makes people hesitate, not try something, right? But my thing is like fear. I give my fear to God. Let him take care of the fear. Then I can go move on to do what I would like to do, or what I aspire to do, or what my goals are. So that is, when I was in my younger years, like say 20s, I literally thought I was invincible. I thought no one could hurt me. I thought, nothing would ever happen to me. That's not the case, right?
Yeah.
Like, we run into business challenges. We run into predicaments. We run in, you get your speeding tickets. You get your parking tickets.
As they say, life.
Life to you.
Yeah.
But I think with that mindset, even though that was a bit naive, I didn't have a lot of fear. Now, it's so weird because when you get older, you start learning things. You get experiences, great ones, not great ones, and really not good ones. And then that's when you start building the concept of, oh, shoot, I'm fearful that will happen again, right?
Like I call those informed decisions, right?
Okay. So, but I'm glad you brought that up because we hope and we pray for that strength to understand the difference between informed decisions or is fear just blocking us, right? So when it came to, well, I was 21 years old when I left St. Louis to go, build this new journey somewhere else. I knew I wanted to work in sports and entertainment. Didn't really know how. Gotta be real with you. I went to law school. I dropped out because I kept finding these opportunities to work in, I'm going to say it now. Like I worked as a wardrobe stylist for a little bit in the entertainment industry. And then I learned how public relations worked, right? I learned the game backwards. I ended up, running my own solo business as a one-woman PR shop at the time when I was in my, what it was like 20, by age 25, because no one would hire me because I didn't have that internship experience.
Yeah.
I didn't have, any track record. I was like, you know what? None of these doors are opening on me, so I got to build my own door.
Created your own opportunity.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, again, what gave you the grit to say, this is what I can do? Like, I can do this. I'm trying to get the DNA, right? Like, because there are audience members that are listening that have these ideas, that have these dreams, that have these goals. And I love that, you say that you've kind of competed with yourself.
Yeah.
You just kind of had that gene inside of you, I guess, to know that, hey, I see this as an opportunity and I'm going to chase after it. Because even I've heard you tell your story where, you kind of fell into some great opportunities, with some of your clients, that just happened because you took that step.
Sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, for folks that are listening, what advice would you give to them that, are kind of grappling with, I see this opportunity out there.
Carpe diem.
Yeah. Seize it.
That's really what it is. Sometimes I treat moments, right? Even milliseconds of moments as, will this opportunity ever come to me again? Whether it's, whether it's a business connection, sometimes when we're really busy and I was like, oh, I can have, this person is inviting me to lunch, right? What can I offer them? Where can we collaborate, right? I take it. I don't hesitate with that, right? And honestly, like a lot of that grit also comes from who I am and how I was raised. Yeah. Can we go that direction?
We absolutely can, because again, this podcast is for those audience members that don't have that background to pull from.
Okay.
Right? Don't have those mentors to look to. Don't have that friend like I have in you that has this really cool story or this really cool opportunity or pathway that we can talk about.
Yeah.
So they're getting it here.
Yeah. So look, this is kind of the basis of who I am. I tell people I'm Mary Beth. I'm a child of immigrants. I'm a first-generation American-born Filipina American. I'm the youngest of 3 daughters. I was the only person in my immediate family born here. I was born and raised in St. Louis. Only one of us, the only person in my immediate family born in the United States. And some of the listeners might relate to this if they are children of immigrants, right? I also grew up with daily lectures or daily reminders. Mary Beth, we came to this country to give you the best lives. That adds a layer of pressure. Mary Beth, we sent you to these schools to give you opportunities. Another layer of pressure. Mary Beth, we want you to do better than we did. This is the country of opportunities. So maybe it was this constant reminder or like this, okay, They built the foundation. They dug that soil so I could, reap my crops, right? It wasn't a case where it was like, here are resources, here's money, but it was more so a foundation. Like, I'll tell you this: my late father, may he rest in peace, and he never used these words, but he also taught me that I am always a victor and never a victim.
Wow.
So sometimes when I would ask him questions like, well, is it because we're Filipino? He would always adamantly say, no. This is the country for opportunity. You can do what everyone else does.
Yes.
Right? He never said don't be a victim. He never used those words.
Yeah.
But he taught me ways, like even in grade school, he taught me how to handle classmates that didn't share their markers.
Oh, even that specific.
Oh my
wow.
gosh,
Yeah.
yes. So like those, it was to never feel like something bad happened to me. It was to never. He even taught me ways to, like, that doesn't make them a bad person. Maybe you should find a new approach.
Yeah.
On your form of public relations, or
even like the work that you're doing in the sports industry, I'm kind of thinking, in the context of that, it's almost like he gave you these game plays, like these plays,
playbooks.
the playbook.
Yes.
He helped you create your playbook for life.
He did.
And that you've utilized, all of these plays to get you where you are today. And that is why it is so critical to have that investment from somebody that sees the vision in you that's bigger than yourself. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's going to be your parents. It's always God. Sometimes it's going to be those friends, those mentors. This podcast, we believe in you. We know that you are made for something bigger than yourself. And so it's just a beautiful thing when we have an opportunity to look back and see that through all of those tough moments, right? And I understand why you're getting emotional. I'm getting emotional too, because it's like I didn't understand it then when I was feeling isolated, or, I was forced to be in pageants and choose to do things that were more academic than social, but it helped to create a work ethic in me that I didn't, when my parents ended up getting divorced, like, why couldn't I be a part of a traditional family? But it expanded the love that I was able to have from both, you know what I'm saying, through my bonus parents. So just, your life is written. And if you can learn to take those nuggets, those intentional plays and lessons and strategies, and use them in your playbook.
Yes. Like, just from what I've shared, those are just contributions to what we call grit.
Yes.
Right? And look, I'll be real with you. When I first started doing my own thing, right, running my own PR business, did I have a lot of money? No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I've instead of panicking, well, I can't lie about that. I panic a couple times. But when we're in a bind, right, I've never really complained like, oh, it's not fair that I don't have this money or that I don't make this money. When there's fire under my ass, I go make the money. I go create if I can't find the opportunity, I will create the opportunity.
Yes.
I will find what is the problem. What is something that where are my skills? Where can they be implemented?
Yeah.
What do other people need? Okay. How can I fix that problem or fulfill that need?
Yeah.
But how can I be like the darn thing where someone comes to me for that, even if there are 10 people offering the same service or fulfilling the same need?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And at that point, it comes down, and this is related to business and marketing in general. Like, who is my audience? At the time, I was working in entertainment. When I first started, it was music artists, lifestyle clients. Like, I worked with an amazing celebrity chef for so long, but then I found more of a need as the years went by with athletes.
Yeah.
Not the top 1% ones, right? Like, we have the LeBrons and the names that you always hear about. But what about the athletes that, you know, G League versus, you know, first string NBA? What about the athletes who are trying to get back on a team or that know they're getting back on a team, but no one really knows their name? That became a niche for me.
Wow.
What about the pro athletes working overseas, playing in China or in Europe? We don't tend to think about a lot of that stuff, but I found that to be an amazing niche.
You saw that gap and kind of seized that opportunity there.
It was, there was a niche or kind of a focus I had. I started working with YouTubers as well.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So like even YouTubers, I had a client, his name is Timmy De La Ghetto. Tim Chanarangsu, right? He was on Nick Cannon's Wild and Out for like a number of seasons, a long time. And I remember he told me, Mary Beth, I want to be the Asian Fresh Prince. And I said, bet. You know, because like, you know, before YouTube became like the biggest deal in the world, right? You had these really successful YouTubers who wanted to venture out. They kind of had the same mission as I had. Like they wanted to do something more than what they were known for. Like I want to be on TV. Okay, cool, bet. You know, so when you're running a business, your service or product, if you're good at what you do, you will realize it is not the same product for everyone.
Yes.
If you are able to learn how to analyze exactly what a person, your client in this case, wants, do they want notoriety? Do they want more money? Do they need the pats on the back, you know, their ego, you know, helped a little bit?
Yeah.
Or do they want a bigger community? Those are four very different things.
Very different.
You're not going to, you know, if someone truly doesn't care about getting, for example, paid appearances or engagements, don't focus your time and energy on that. You know, one question, okay, whenever I got a client, I would ask every single person, pick an answer. Which one do you care about more? The money or the mission? There is no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
And if they answered money, I knew the extra work I had to put in because that required, okay, I got to build their brand up a little bit more so they have better opportunity to get paid appearances or engagements. If they said the mission, I would always re-ask them.
To make sure, huh?
Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Because that's a pretty answer, but be real with me, you know? And there were people who genuinely cared more about that, right? And I was able to confirm that that was the case, that they did care more about the mission. And so I was able to do more, whether it was like building their name, more media relations and interviews, because like that, it was more for brand building and then like fan community engagement for them, right? And this applied to both, not just athletes, but more so like entertainment industry talent, right?
Yeah.
But I think here, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, a lot of when we're business owners or entrepreneurs, we're still in sales. Okay.
Yeah, and you know, Mary Beth, that's kind of what's coming to mind for me. Like, I feel like we need to take a step back and like clarify for people because, like, you know, this episode is about like marketing like a boss, right? Insider tips on like building a powerful brand, you know, staying ahead of it, like, you know, marketing with impact. When you say marketing, where does the brand fit in there? Is marketing and branding the same? Are they the same? And well, just kind of start there. What is the difference? Because I know oftentimes like business owners, they think about like, okay, the first thing I need to do is get a website and a business card or, you know, but what is the power of the brand as it relates to, you know, marketing your business and understanding the marketing piece of your business?
The way I've always understood what brand is, okay, whether it's a corporate brand or a personal brand, that is how people understand who you are, what you stand for, what you don't stand for, the story behind you, or the business. That is the brand. Okay? You can have a brand and never sell anything. You can have a brand and never market, right? Like for me, at the end of I know, okay, here's a great example.
This is so good.
Here's a great example. At the end of the day, throughout my career, past, present, future, my title might change. But my personal brand, at least for me, does not really change. It might shift and evolve, right? But my brand is
authenticity from my perspective.
Thank you. But it's being a woman in leadership. I love spreading messages. I love empowering others, right? A part of my brand is culturally who I am, what I stand for. Might be faith-based. I always share that, yes, my point of view is being a child of immigrants and a first generation, American-born Filipino American, right? Yes. That is my brand, and it's so funny because let me tell you, if any listeners out there, I've been there where it's like, do I make a webpage for myself? Do I make one for my business? Do I do both? How do I handle both?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the difference? How much of my personal brand do I put in my business website? And like it becomes such a cluster in our heads, like that we hit these brick walls. I was like, okay, if I can't even figure this out, what do I do? And it's funny because I've gone through that so many times. Like, our businesses might change. We might go from an event planning company to an event social media marketing company and to digital. Shoot, do we do a podcast? But guess what? Mary Beth Solace doesn't change.
You have just like walked down my life. Like,
right?
Yes.
You get
like
this.
It is so true. The pivots
because
have been, but it's all been about empowering women.
Okay, so Kristy, let me ask you this. Your endeavors, whether in education, entrepreneurship, business, there's some sense of a consistent Kristy personal branding in what you value,
Absolutely.
right? In all of those things.
Absolutely.
You see the pattern.
Yes.
That is what will help you define who and what your brand is.
Yeah, it's so true. And I always kind of ask this, I do a lot of work with entrepreneurs, and I kind of ask this trick question, who controls your brand, right? And they'll always say, it's me. I'm in control of my brand. No.
But brand
not.
is based on perception.
It's based on perception. It's based on the perceiver.
Correct.
Right? So you may think, that's why I love that you asked that question to your client. What do you want?
Correct.
Right? What do you want? And that's what you're putting out there. But it's up to the customers, the clients, your followers, whomever, how they perceive what you're putting out there. And I think that's why it can be so challenging to manage a brand, because there's so many aspects to it that you cannot control.
Right. So these even like little personal things that I've done for myself is sometimes even when I do like panel speaking, I don't go full face makeup. That's a confession. Is that a confession or just a fact? I don't know. But I say that because number one, I'm allergic to a lot of makeup. But number two, it's just like, it's not who I am. And it's okay to communicate to other people, especially women, to show them like, look, this is how I roll. And it's okay to me. That's how I roll. Does that make sense?
It makes absolute sense, because this is the question that's coming to mind for me. Like, as you're creating like these marketing strategies, these brand strategies, how do you make those deep connections with your audiences? And just like you're saying, it's showing up. That's one way to show up authentically as yourself, because that's going to come across and be felt. So what are some other strategies that you've seen or you've done or you've seen that work for folks that are really struggling to really connect, with their audiences?
I mean, first of all, who is your audience? Even if you have an audience of 2, let's say you have 2 customers. Maybe they bought or bought into your idea or innovation just once or maybe even twice, but that's a signal that what you're doing could be working, right? Is all the time and energy you're putting into it, is it worth, are you getting that ROI, whatever that ROI is? Because energy and time is definitely a cost, right?
Yes, for sure. So good. So good.
I just connecting with audiences, right? And it's,
Well, like
even
you
as
said,
an
who is it?
well, yeah. So even look, I'm kind of like you. Sometimes I'll be driving in the car and I'll be like, what business should I start? Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, you see so many opportunities, right? And challenges. And it's like, man, you have this desire because your brand, right? Like my passion is helping people unearth their creative ideas, right? To develop their creativity. Because for me, it's personal. The first time we meet God, He is creating, right? And so that is a gift that we all have, but we all don't develop.
Right.
And so my passion, my brand, anything that I'm doing is helping to shine the light on people's creative ideas, more specifically women and entrepreneurs. And the way in which I do that is authentically, it's unique, it's with excellence, it's with creativity and innovation. And so I'm always looking for ways that I can improve myself.
Right.
Like that's a brand. I try to model what I, want to show others. And so you're right. Like there's so many ways to serve and so many ideas, but there's only so much time.
Correct. And, I'm going to go back to that question, like, how do you connect with audiences? And I'm sure that you've thought about this. In creating your audience, maybe it would be a cool idea if your audience were actually people you wanted to be connected with. Right? Am I right?
Listen, just had a conversation with an entrepreneur yesterday. And I think, how they say I was yesterday years old when I realized this.
Right.
That I can like my customers too. Like I don't just have to be of service to my customers or my clients.
Right.
I can prefer them like they prefer me.
Yeah.
So every client, every customer, I like.
Right. And maybe this is more of a quote service-based or community-based business. But I was actually reflecting this. I do a lot of reflecting in the car, by the way, because I always have a drive.
Yeah.
And I was just like, when you sell products, you sell them to people who need or want that product or like that product, right? You don't necessarily know who they are. Something they have in common might be a lifestyle or an income or whatever it might be. But if you're community-based or if you're more service, you literally have the privilege of kind of creating the audience or the clientele you want, right? Because, okay, for example, when I was working, one-on-one with athletes, right, representing them PR-wise, there was one thing I had in common with them, even though I was not a pro athlete. I did not play college ball or anything like that. But they had some kind of fire in them that always wanted to be better. At the end of the day, just like me, might be a little bit, they like to, might be a pain in the ass. So am I, right? But when it came down to business, eye contact, on game, follow a playbook.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That is something I could relate to. The part super fun, heavily disciplined, but at the end of the day also wanted to be known as a human being. I wanted all of those things, and that's something I could relate to, right? So for me, working with athletes on the PR side, that is kind of how I chose my audience or clientele, right? Now there's another audience too. That's the people watching you. Whether they're insanely curious or envious or competitors, right?
Yeah.
that's also an audience, whether or not you want that audience.
That's true.
So it's something not a lot of people talk about.
Yes.
So-
I'm thinking about, I'm like, yeah, those really are the buckets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's definitely your clientele audience and potential clients or customers, but then there's everyone else in the world who comes across your presence or sees the results of your work. The results of your work are definitely, they serve as the attraction, right? That's how people find you or find out, like, oh, you went to Kristy Jackson's event? You know what I mean? That the result of your work got someone asking that, right? So that's also a curious audience, I call them. These are not official terms, by the way, but just, in working, whether it's PR or marketing, it's just these categories I've developed and how to understand people who are out there.
Well, this is really what we're looking for, because I always say we're not sharing information that you can Google.
Right.
Like,
that's
you
what
can
I'm
Google
saying.
these strategies.
That's
We
what I'm
want
saying.
the insider, like what has been your perception through your experience. Listen, you are working in the sports industry as a director of marketing, right? You have been had experience in PR. Like, these are spaces that are not male dominated, and so I'm sure that you've had to
Or they're
navigate
not female
them.
dominated.
I'm sorry, they're not. They are
Right.
male dominated.
Correct.
So I'm sure that you have had to navigate and find some unique, you've gained some unique perspectives and had to come up with some unique strategies to navigate through it and be successful. So that's what you're sharing today, which is so powerful. So you are right on target with what you're sharing.
I just think, okay, so I will say probably in the past, what are we in 2025 now? Wow. I think in the past few years, it's been, I don't want to say normalized, but it's been more publicly shared of the normalization of women working in sports. However, women are still not dominant, in my opinion. Okay, someone can fact check me on that. That's totally cool. But let me tell you, even working in Hollywood in 2009, girl, like, that was a different world.
Yeah.
This is, I'll say it once, this was like pre-Harvey Weinstein, right? And like going into sports, even I was like, oh, okay, this is, most of the agents are men, managers are men, the lawyers, like, in sports, like, and entertainment, I found, I evolved my abilities and expertise in navigating, not just surviving, but thriving in that environment.
Yes.
And that's actually like kind of shaped who I am too. It's why, maybe it is the reason why I don't I don't put on a lot of makeup. I don't know. Or when I go to certain meetings, I wear a ponytail or I wear sneakers.
Yeah.
When I wear like more feminine clothes, like I balance it out, right? I think I do that. It's to the point where it's native to me. Like, I don't even think about it.
It's making me think about like the power of networking and like, relationships as you're, in spaces, right, that lead you to success.
Right.
And so not even having, it's easier to connect with women, right, when you are in those spaces. But when you're in a male dominated space, like, how do you even maximize those relationships?
Okay, this is, again, a personal opinion. I would say, I'll just put out a number, 10 years ago, I felt like it was a competition with women in entering the space. I don't feel like that today. Like, I get amped when I meet other women in sports. And when I meet them, I was like, oh, you're VP of comms over there? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so proud of you. Even when I meet younger women, or even when I see, like, oh, I love this part. When I meet especially younger women, or even men too, right? It doesn't matter. I'll meet them and I was like, you got that job? Like, I know it's a coordinator role, bro, do you know that that's really good and really hard to break into? Because once you're in, you're working for a pro team, you're good. Because if, maintain your vibe, perform well at work, you can go to another sports team after that.
Yeah.
It is so hard to break into, not gonna lie. And so very grateful that I had the opportunity working with the St. Louis Battlehawks with the United Football League. It is a dream come true. I've always wanted to work for a St. Louis sports team, and I'm very grateful that I'm able to do so, right? Because there is a lot of hometown pride there.
Yes.
It's a mixture. Because I was so under the impression that I would never be able to work in sports in St. Louis. But that changed. So, that's why
You defied the odds in that way.
Yeah, it was tough because I noticed, whether it's director, VP, or roles in leadership, I always go to people's LinkedIns. How do they get that job? Of course, they're skilled and they have the abilities and the experience, but I always look at their past and I was like, oh, it's because they work there. It's like, oh, they work for these two companies. Oh, okay. I connect dots. I'm obsessed with connecting the dots, right?
Yeah. It's either where they've worked or who they know.
Yeah, which is fair game. I'm all about it because I will tell college students, I will tell younger professionals in any industry. I was like, at the end of the day, it's who you know.
Yeah.
So don't get mad about it. Just do something about it.
Well,
right?
And especially
so get to know
if you can
people.
Exactly. If you can build, getting to know people, building authentic relationships, it's huge. I mean, I always tell the story that I've never really applied for a job. Like every opportunity has been someone said, hey, this is coming. Are you interested? Long story short, so there is such power in building those relationships.
Right.
And they don't always, it may not always be an immediate outcome. Some things are nurtured over time. Relationships are nurtured over time. But I think that's one of the ways in which small businesses, we talk about like making major plays in marketing, like being a person that's relatable, that people want to get to know. But what are some other tips per se that you would recommend for small businesses in marketing themselves like major players?
I'm going to go two directions with this. One's the social, personal, I call it common sense. Go to lunch with people. Like, we can have Zooms all day, which is great, and sometimes we have to if we're in different states or something like that. But sitting here across from you, Kristy, is way different, than sitting in a Zoom.
Yep.
Like, my dad always taught me, fix it over lunch. It's like, why? He used to tell me, he worked in mediation with many lawyers throughout his whole career, in specific industries. And he would tell me on the way to school, because he always drove me to school, today I'm going to lunch with lawyer so-and-so or attorney so-and-so. And I was like, why, Daddy? Aren't they on the other side? And he would say, yes, Mary Beth. But we always work things out over lunch,
That is something that men do well.
They
do.
Interesting.
They do. And I've also heard the reference that they leave it on the court, right? They fix it over lunch or they fix it over the court. That's something that we as women have to get better at.
Yeah, okay, so here's a great example. I recently met with an organization, a nonprofit, and we were discussing how to collaborate, okay? And this has to do with sports. And the conversation was good, and they told me the textbook stuff, and I shared the textbook stuff. But when we met up for lunch, they told me exactly what they needed or what they wanted. And because I actually asked them, I was like, girl, just tell me, here, this is actually a line I'll use. It's not even a line. It's something I genuinely care about. I'll say, like, what can I do for you so you can fulfill your job and help, make your boss happy? Like, what do you need? And, I've asked a corporate organization, okay, so you're interested in doing an event together. But what do you need the outcome to be? Do you need a lot of people for pictures? Or do you need new customers to open accounts with you? And if so, how many? They're like, oh, if I even get one account open from it, I was like, done. Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
I'm picking up a tip from you.
huh?
It's being straightforward.
Yes.
Being straightforward and asking those direct questions.
Yes.
What do you really want?
Yes.
Because oftentimes that's not our first response. It's like what we think we should want, or what sounds politically correct around that.
Perhaps.
But I love that that is the direct question.
Some people, and I've had to test it out, especially here.
Mm-hmm.
St. Louis is more kind. We go through the pleasantries. I get that, and I love it. It was actually very refreshing, coming from LA.
Mm-hmm.
But I think because I worked in a major metropolitan city where businesses and people work with people from all over the world.
Yeah.
Oh, and this is actually really important. I know, you understand how people communicate. Do they like the 5-minute intros and feel good moments? It's like, how was your weekend? Like, when I had a team meeting, with another corporate organization, I told my team members, I go, hold up. And I linked in the people who are going to be on the Zoom call, from the corporate organization. I was like, all right, one's from New York, 2 of them from the East Coast, 1 works in Vegas. So I'm telling you right now, they don't need all the feel-good pleasantries. Like, can we just get to the point, ask them exactly what they want? Because my gut says they know exactly what they want from us. All we need to figure out is how much they're willing to pay for it.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
It worked.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yes.
Because we can always, and I understand this approach. We tend to do hey, how can we work together? Okay. But what answers do we get?
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people, look, this is what I have access to, and this is what I'm able to offer. But what do you need, and what do you have in your resource bucket?
Yeah.
And when you
you're
motivate
clear on that,
or encourage someone to answer that or even offer the same questions, because I offered, they feel more comfortable offering, right?
Yes.
And I think I cannot emphasize more the importance of being culturally and socially aware, okay? Because even when you take a St. Louis versus, fast-paced Manhattan-based person, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm talking I've had meetings with people from other countries and cultures, backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with some of those cultures, 100%, you ask about their family. But I understand with whom to do that with.
Yes.
Based on what country they're from, based maybe even on their faith, right? Different faiths. And so I'm very aware, and I think that is at least 25 to 30% of why I do well in the people relations game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because it gives them a sense of comfort, or they understand that I took the time to know these things.
Yes.
Right?
It is. You really are helping me to see marketing in a different way.
I mean, this is more so the approach, right? Because marketing is marketing. You're trying to sell something or run up numbers or get to an audience. But I think this has a lot to do with, because you asked the question, how do small businesses become big players?
Yeah.
And I'm helping them understand what different approaches are on the basics of how to do business with other businesses, but also at least working for a sports team, those other small businesses could be our partners, right? When we deal with other organizations.
Yes.
So that actually goes back to your original question. How can small businesses become bigger players in the industry, in sports? I like creative partnerships. Yes, 90% of the time you got to pay to play, right? It's business. I'm not even just speaking for the sports team I work with, right? But it is, because imagine if nobody paid for anything.
Right.
Okay. Would we have the motivation to make more money? Would anyone make money?
I've heard it said that there has to be a level of friction.
Correct.
For you,
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's got to be a level of friction for you to really value, what you're getting.
But go to lunch. Take the time to understand. I honestly, I can't imagine walking into a lunch and not knowing anything about them. I'm telling you, maybe it's just, it just comes to me organically. It's intrinsic. Like I've worked with, I was consulting a film executive in LA. He said these words to me, Mary Beth, I have lunch with so-and-so tomorrow. He's the CEO of this company. And I was like, great. Now, the average person or someone in PR might book the hot table at a certain restaurant or whatever. But what I did was I gave him a one sheet and full background on this person. This is who they are. This is who their wife is. This is who their ex-wife is. This is where his main house is. This is where he has a vacation house. Like this is where he went to school. This is what he cares about. These are his legal troubles in the past 5 years. So he understood everything that he was walking into.
Yes.
And maybe formulate a way to fulfill whatever that person was going to ask for in that meeting. Does that make sense?
Building those real connections.
I just like to know what I'm walking into, and I cannot imagine otherwise.
All of the market research, the strategy, the social media, the platforms, but what you're saying is relationship building is key. Knowing who you're talking to, having an authentic, a vested interest in who you're trying to connect with.
Yeah.
Your audience.
And speaking of that, okay, let me piggyback off that. And you were asking how to connect with more audiences. Now, some people will come across this situation. Let's say I want to connect with a new audience. Let's say it's the Latino community, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe Asian American, or maybe it doesn't have to do with ethnicity or, specific cultures. There's always going to be someone that will say, why? They don't really move the needle for us. Here is my response. Why not? Why can't we be the needle that moves within them? Wow. And I say that because, like I said, I'm a risk taker, but there's also a need, right? If you actually want to grow, take the risk of being the needle in other communities. Don't just rely on marketing to them for them to buy into you or buy your product. Does that make sense?
Oh, my gosh. It makes absolute sense. It makes absolute sense. Be the solution, right?
So go out there, okay, and here's a version of marketing, right? Maybe there's some type of community engagement. Maybe it's a networking event. Maybe it's you rent out a cool venue in St. Louis, invite everyone, and you pay for the F&B, the food and beverage, or you pay for the experience, whatever it is, okay? At the end of the day, you make these strategic investments. Now, when you're inviting, the general public, what kind of emphasis and focus are you doing to invite the specific new audiences that you're trying to be the needle in, right? Does that make sense?
It does.
So what extra work are you doing? The extra energy, right? So that's been a newer lesson or something I've realized recently is just because they don't move the needle for us, then we should just be the damn needle ourselves.
I mean, that is like a mic drop.
Right?
What you're saying takes us back to the simple things there's this
So
saying
simple,
that says,
Kristy.
everything I needed to learn, I learned in kindergarten. You know what I mean? Like, play nice with people,
Yeah.
put things back where you got them from, have a general, play nice with others. Like, you're taking me back to, if we can just get the basic foundations of understanding the value of people, building relationships, being the one to be willing to be that solution, moving the needle for other people, that's where you can make some major plays.
Right?
By being invested in those simple strategies, those simple practices, human-focused practices, because that's what marketing is building that relationship, helping to be the solution for somebody, and letting them know that that's the option that you can provide for them.
Yes.
Oh my God, this has been so eye-opening.
I could go for days. You got my brain.
know.
My brain just started rolling.
Girl,
I'm like,
we could keep. Look, I feel like we might need to do a part 2 and kind of like bring.
That's
fine.
Because
really, that's what this space is all about. Like, ConnectHER is about being transparently sharing your experiences with others that are listening, like giving those insider tips, like those strategies. Like I said, everybody doesn't have a mentor. Everybody doesn't have a big sister or, someone that they can look to, a leader that they can learn from. But we want this space to be that for those women. But even the women that come here, I want you to celebrate you, right? Like, this is a safe space where we can celebrate each other, our journeys. We can laugh together, cry about it, like celebrate the lessons that we've learned. So I just know that our audience today has been, I can just see like their notepads, if they're taking notes, like filled with tips. Like, I can see their phones like filled with nuggets that they hadn't thought about before. So for folks that want to stay connected, to learn more, follow along, to see what's happening with you and the Battlehawks, what do they need to know?
Well, definitely to stay connected with the Battlehawks, follow them on X at XFL Battlehawks. Insta or IG, as we say,
right,
is UFL Battlehawks. And, we have all the social. Check out UFLBattlehawks.com. Now, if you want to get connected with me, get in touch, themarybeth.com. There's even, I think my email is even on there.
Yes, and we'll make sure
which is wild,
add
by
those
the way.
links.
But my social is at Mary Beth Salas on all platforms. I actually respond, believe it or not.
Yes, you
especially on X. When people hit me up if they tweet me or even DM me, as long as I can DM you back on your X inbox, I typically respond, especially if you say something compelling, I mean, I get a lot, but yeah.
So reach out.
I like connecting with people.
Literally.
Yeah.
We don't have anybody here that's not a real connector. I mean, we just don't.
I can tell.
We just don't. So
yeah.
This is a safe space. So listen, if you love today's episode, do me a favor. Tell somebody else about it. Reach out to Mary Beth. Tell her how much you enjoyed it. Subscribe, leave a review, and be a connector by sharing this with somebody else who needs to hear this message. And remember, your bold life is waiting for you to just say yes. So until next time, stay bold, stay fearless, and be a connector.
And be the damn needle.